defendants again present before the court with his counsel, Mr. Shapiro, Mr. Cochran, Mr. Bailey, Mr. Douglas, people represented by Ms. Clark and Mr. Darden. The jury is not present. Counsel, is there anything we need to discuss before we invite the jurors to rejoin us? Mr. Douglas.
Yes, Your Honor. I have one matter.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Your Honor. If the court pleases, when we visited the issue of the Pitchers motion, the amended Pitchers motion on Detective Mark Fuhrman, the request included not only statements, but whether there were any audio cassettes, video cassette recordings, etc., of any statements that might be relevant to any of the issues that the court did find value in holding an in-camera hearing. I've had occasion, Your Honor, and my staff as well, to review a redacted document that included witness statements from different district attorneys. And it noted in that statement that the interviews with those district attorneys were in fact tape recorded. I ask, Your Honor, that we be allowed to receive and to review copies of the tape recordings that are referenced in this document. If the court preliminarily wishes to first have the tape recordings redacted to be consistent with that which was turned over, we would have no objection. However, we do think that we are entitled to receive also copies of the audio cassette tapes, and I would like to obviate the filing of a new motion simply asking for that. And that is why I bring it to the court's attention in this fashion.
All right, let me direct then the clerk to contact Mr. Walsh in the city attorney's office and ask him to make those tape recordings available. All right, anything else? All right, let's invite the jurors to join us, please.
Before we do that, can we have Mr. Walsh come over and appear on the record? It is an internal affairs investigation. There are certain privacy rights that Detective Fuhrman will have.
These are tape recordings of statements that have already been disclosed to the both sides.
No, we don't have them. We don't have them.
You have the statements.
No, I do not. I've never seen them.
No, you've all received, both sides have received copies of these.
I have never seen them. And I did ask about them.
Both sides were provided copies, counsel. Also with the order that they not be photocopied.
I think that may be part of the problem I have in my possession. Some
Right.
little notes. They're not full statements, however.
No, they're not.
Oh, okay.
All right, so you have the gist of what's there concerning Detective Fuhrman.
I think that the question is whether a tape recording made by IA is available. We don't have that tape.
All right, well, we'll ask Mr. Walsh if it's available. If they want to contest it, we'll obviously have a third Pitchers hearing.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Let's have the jurors, please. All right, Mr. Kaelin. The record reflects we've now been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And Mr. Brian Kaelin is still on the witness stand undergoing recross-examination by Mr. Shapiro. Good morning, Mr. Kaelin. You're reminded you are still under oath, sir. Sir. And Mr. Shapiro.
Thank you very much.
I think Mr. Kaelin has a full cup already.
Thanks. Two.
Oh, gosh, thanks.
Mr. Shapiro.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, Mr. Kaelin.
Morning.
I want to just take a few moments to briefly review the year from May to May of 93 to 94, and to go over with you the time that Mr. Simpson spent with Nicole and his children. Are you aware during that period of time that on 3 occasions the family traveled together to Hawaii?
What's the objection? Overruled. 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 You can ask the question. Are you aware of these 3 trips?
Of trips, I don't know. I think there were somewhere. One was Hawaii, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if one was Mexico or but I know vacations.
Frequent vacations,
Um,
especially in February and March of '94?
The exact date I don't know, but I'm sure there were vacations probably. They seemed to travel.
Were there vacations to Cabo San Lucas?
Yes.
Was there a vacation to Miami?
Yes.
And you said there was at least one vacation to Hawaii,
I believe so.
and there might have been more that you're unaware of.
Yes.
And also during this period of time, if Mr. Simpson was spending 5 nights a week with Nicole and the children at Bundy, you would not be aware of that, would you?
I would not. If he was there, I would ask possibly if it was Michelle or Gigi. If OJ was around, she might have said, he's over at Nicole's.
And when you were telling us that on occasions you would actually only observe Mr. Simpson with his children for a specific period of time, even during those visits or times together, there would be a significant amount of time that you may not be aware of. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. Kaelin, has anyone from any tabloids approached you to sell your story?
Yes.
Who has approached you?
Everyone. Every tabloid.
How much money have you been offered?
A lot. Close to $1 million, I guess.
Have you accepted any money from any tabloids for your story?
No.
Have you discussed the matter of selling your story in conjunction with Grant Kramer?
Of selling it?
Selling it or making it available or getting paid for your story with Grant Kramer to a tabloid?
Yeah, I didn't want to sell a story.
And isn't it true that Grant Kramer tried to encourage you to sell the story with him and that it would be worth more money if he had you together with him?
Call roll. You can answer the question.
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Ms. Clark.
Mr. Kaelin, you got a lot of money for your appearance on Current Affair, didn't you?
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, isn't it true, Mr. Kaelin, that you have a book proposal out for about $500,000 right now, don't you?
No.
You don't have a book proposal?
No.
Don't you aren't you represented by the William Morris Agency to write a book?
No.
Haven't you written a book proposal that has been submitted to St. Martin's for publication?
No.
You're not aware of any contract for $500,000 that you have signed?
Oh, I know it's out there, but I haven't done that.
You haven't signed it yet.
Oh, no, I heard a story about that. That's not true.
You don't have any book proposals out.
No. Don't want to do a book.
Plan to write a book in the future, Mr. Kaelin?
As of today, no way.
But you may well do that in the future, might you?
In the future, maybe. But right now, no.
Not right now. You're aware of the law that prevents you from doing that for 90 days?
I know there's a law. I don't know what of 90 days or whatever it is.
Well, you
But I know
have-
there's a law about writing something.
How many lawyers do you have right now, Mr. Kaelin?
2.
Before June 12th of 1994, how many lawyers did you have, Mr. Kaelin?
0.
How are you paying them, these 2 lawyers, Mr. Kaelin?
Sustained. Although he has counsel here and that objection was not raised by him, I'll allow it to stand at this point.
How are you paying your lawyers, Mr. Kaelin?
With Michael Plotkin, it's a percentage of work.
A percentage of work?
If work comes, he'll get a percentage off that.
So he's representing you right now on the if come, as they say. If you make money, he gets a percentage of it. Is that right?
Yes.
Sounds like he's betting you're going to make quite a lot of money, doesn't it, Mr. Kaelin?
It's argumentative, sustained.
And what about your other lawyer?
Bill Janego,
Mm-hmm.
Good faith, I guess.
I'm sorry?
Good faith.
Good faith?
There was a few lawyers that were coming to represent me, and they kept coming over, and I got it from a friend and said, Bill's a friend, and I said, okay. So I took it out of my friend's word that he was a good guy.
And how do you plan to pay him?
I don't think I'm going to pay him.
You don't think you're ever going to pay him?
Oh, I think eventually, yes. I will owe him everything.
Out of the money you plan to make, you will pay him, is that right?
Somehow, if I make it, I can't predict what'll happen.
And how long has he been representing you?
The day of the grand jury,
Since June the 17th?
yes.
And has he been present on every occasion when you have been in my office for an interview?
I think he missed one. Then he had someone else show up.
He had other lawyers come, didn't he?
Yes,
So he's been present at every interview or sent on one occasion a lawyer in to be with you during your interviews with me, is that correct?
yes,
You have never spoken to me alone without a lawyer representing you, have you, Mr. Kaelin?
correct.
And on your interviews with Mr. Shapiro, he has been present during those interviews, isn't that correct?
Yes,
And in fact, on some occasions, he has met with Mr. Shapiro without you, isn't that correct?
I wasn't in the room. I was in the building, but not in the room together.
He has engaged in numerous telephone calls on your behalf, has he not, Mr. Kaelin?
William Janego?
Yes.
I believe so.
In other words, would it be fair to say that he spent upwards of 100 to 200 hours working with you on your situation?
Or will, you can answer the question.
I don't know how many hours. I don't think it's been that many hours.
Since June the 17th?
But we didn't meet all the time. It would be, he'd call to see if we're going to have an appointment and meet the day before, and then go see whoever we were going to see.
Well, you've met with him quite a few more times than you've met with either myself or Mr. Shapiro, haven't you?
Yes.
Are you aware of what his hourly rate is?
No. Bill Janego's? No. No idea.
And you haven't paid him one dime yet, have you, Mr. Kaelin?
No, I haven't.
And you haven't paid Mr. Plotkin one dime yet, have you?
Yes.
What have you paid Mr. Plotkin?
Whatever the percentages are.
Right,
Oh.
but you have not paid him any money as of this date.
Yes, he's received money.
And how much is that?
I don't know. It goes from an agent to him.
And what is the percentage?
5%.
How much have you made so far? Since June the 12th?
About $60,000.
So far, Mr. Plotkin has received 5% of that.
I believe so.
And he will stand to receive 5% of whatever else you plan to do, whether it's a book or a movie, is that right?
Yes.
All of which may happen after you complete your testimony in this case, isn't that correct?
It could happen, yes.
Between May of '93 and May of '94, how often did you see Paula Barbieri at the Rockingham house?
Not very often.
But she was there.
She came by, yes.
She spent the night.
Yes.
And on how many occasions do you remember seeing her spend the night?
Well, I would never see her spend the night because I couldn't see from where I stay. But if she was there, I'd say I probably know it of about 3 times in the house.
And that's just the times that you know about, is that correct?
That I would assume that she was there that night.
There might be times she was there that you don't know about, is that correct?
Correct.
And as a matter of fact, on June the 11th, the defendant went out with Paula to an event, didn't he?
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, during the early months of January of 1994, he was dating Paula Barbieri, wasn't he?
I believe so.
And during at the end of the year of 1993, he was dating Paula Barbieri, wasn't he?
93, I think. I think so.
And are you aware of any, have you heard the name Tawny Katane?
Yes.
Wasn't that another woman that Mr. Simpson was dating in the 90s?
I think they dated. I don't know. I wasn't around. But I think they dated. I'm pretty sure.
And that was between the dates of 85 and 94, wasn't it?
Of 85, 94, yes.
And are you aware of when Mr. Simpson married Nicole Brown?
Overruled.
I don't know the date.
Would it refresh your memory if I gave you a date?
In the 80s, I think.
Around 85?
I think so.
Sounds right?
Yes.
Now, you indicated to Mr. Shapiro that between May of '93 and May of '94, Nicole and Mr. Simpson were attempting to reconcile
At some point,
back and forth during that whole year. Isn't that correct?
it was like a commitment they were going to have a certain amount of time while OJ was in town. I don't know the dates, but I think it had to do with football season, leaving for that, to see if they were going to make it. I think it was to last until August or something like that, whenever football season would start in New York.
So there was what was it, a promise that Nicole made to act like his wife until August of '94?
The form of the question?
It's an argumentative question.
Overruled. Overruled. Overruled.
That they were going to try to make it work as a couple.
No, that wasn't my question.
Say it again.
Was there an agreement that Nicole behave as though she were still Mr. Simpson's wife until August of '94, when football season would start?
I'm going to object to the term for the questions being made, behave as if. Because that behavior.
Overruled. Do you understand the question, sir?
That they were together. There was going to be a commitment to be together. Yes,
No.
as a...
Let me ask it again.
Okay, ask me.
Let me ask.
Wait.
Let me ask the question.
Wait. When I say wait, everybody stops talking, except for me. Understood? All right. Obviously, the question needs to be rephrased.
Thank you, Alan.
Proceed.
Was there an agreement that Nicole made with Mr. Simpson not to see another man until August of '94, when he would leave for the football season?
I think that there was something like that to make it work. So I think they had an agreement. It was like no dating. They were going to stay together.
Do you
But I
know
don't-
what? I'm sorry.
Yeah, like that, but I don't know the dates. I think it was that time for football season before.
Do you know whether it was for the purpose of Mr. Simpson's image or the purpose of their relationship?
Sustain.
But during that time period, during the period of 1994, he was dating Paula Barbieri.
Yeah, I think they dated, yes.
In January, wasn't he dating Paula Barbieri?
I think so.
Don't you
Yes.
recall a trip with her to Hawaii between '93 and '94?
I don't know if they went, they went. I didn't know if they go on trips. But they probably did. I don't know.
As a matter of fact, do you recall that there was a trip that he took to Palm Springs with Paula Barbieri in June of 1994?
There's a trip, I think it was Memorial Day.
Memorial Day?
Yes, I think it was to Palm Springs then.
And that was the defendant and Paula Barbieri took
bel-
that trip together to Palm Springs, didn't they?
I believe so.
All right, now you stated on cross-examination that you really liked both Nicole and the defendant. You recall stating that?
Yes.
But Nicole did not give you a place to stay for free, did she?
No.
And you told Mr. Shapiro that even though the defendant let you stay in the guest unit for free, you felt no obligation to him. Do you recall saying that?
That although I stayed there free, I felt no obligation to him?
Yes. You recall saying that?
I guess yes.
Now, on Mr. Simpson's estate, you had a room with its own bathroom. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
It had its own office.
Yes.
You had access to a jacuzzi.
I'm sorry, Mr. Shapiro. Objection.
Objection, this is an incident.
I assume this is foundational for something else. Overruled.
Yes.
You had access to a jacuzzi.
Yes.
You had access to a swimming pool.
Yes.
You had access to the kitchen area in the pool house.
Yes.
Now, what would you have paid to live in a place like that, Mr. Kaelin?
I probably wouldn't have lived there if it was a price on it.
If you could have afforded to pay for it, sir, what do you think you would have paid for something like that? $1,000, $1,500 a month?
Oh, in that area? Yes.
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 And you stayed there for 6 months?
Yes.
So you saved at least $6,000 staying there rent-free, isn't that right?
Yes.
So the defendant saved you at least $6,000 by letting you stay there without paying any rent. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And he got you an acting part too, didn't he?
No.
Didn't you tell us about the Kushner lock?
No, I had the audition through an agent.
And he
And-
made a phone call to help you, didn't he?
I had mentioned to him that I knew someone, and I didn't know at the time, and he said he was on the board there, and he said, I'll make a call.
So
But
he
I-
helped you,
No, I had the reading. I didn't get the part.
but he tried to help you.
Oh, he
said
took-
he'd make the
he
call,
ma-
didn't
oh,
he?
Yes, he did.
All right. Saved you $6,000 in rent.
Yes.
You stayed on that beautiful estate. Yes?
Yes.
You had access to a famous celebrity. Yes?
Yes.
When you went out to see your friends, you could tell them that you were living on Mr. Simpson's estate, couldn't you?
I could, but I didn't do that.
You didn't do that, Mr. Kaelin. You
I
never told
really-
anyone you lived on Mr. Simpson's estate?
Well, some people knew, close friends, but it wasn't.
And with all of that, you don't feel obligated to him, is that right? You don't feel obligated to him? Is that
I-
your testimony?
Can you explain obligated? What-
Did you need
which-
Mr. Shapiro to explain it to you, sir?
Do you mean for,
Stay. That's argumentative.
You're telling me that you do not feel obligated to Mr. Simpson with all that we have just mentioned? Is that what you're
Oh.
saying?
it's somewhat, yes. That I,
On June the 12th, you stated that you were in the house and you spoke to Mr. Simpson at about 3 p.m., is that right?
yes.
And how did you happen to go into the house at that time?
I think at that time I walked by and he said my name or something like that.
He invited you in.
Yes.
You would not go in without being invited, is that correct?
Yes.
So you were invited in by Mr. Simpson at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on June the 12th, is that right?
Yes.
You were invited in again by him at about 6 or 6:30 after the recital, isn't that right?
Yes.
And then again at 9 p.m. when he wanted to go out to dinner, you were with him again and walked through the house, is that correct?
Yes.
And then again at 11 p.m. when he was getting ready to leave for the limo, you were in the house with him again at that time, were you not?
Yes, I was.
So on June the 12th, you were in the house with Mr. Simpson at 3, at 6, at 9, and at 11 p.m., is that right?
No, not at 9.
You walked through
Oh,
the
when
house.
I walked through, yes. Yes.
Isn't that right?
Yes.
And you were with him on all 4 occasions, is that right?
Yes.
Other than June the 12th of 1994, did you ever spend that much time with Mr. Simpson or go into his house on that many occasions?
No.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Mr. Shapiro.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kaelin, regarding the amount of time you've spent with Mr. Simpson, have you been in the house for any prolonged period of time prior to June the 12th?
Yes.
And for what purpose?
Watched a football game and
How long did you watch a football game for?
3-4 hours.
What else have you done in the house?
Watched a movie. Had a Christmas. Breakfast sometimes.
You would say that Mr. Simpson treated you in a very kind and nice way.
Yes.
Your Honor, objection that's irrelevant and is asked and answered.
Overruled. Innocuous.
And on this occasion, as far as going to McDonald's, I believe you told us that you invited yourself to go with him.
Yes.
Overruled.
Yes.
And regarding access to the living quarters of Mr. Simpson, that wasn't a place that you had free access to, was it?
Say it again.
The living quarters of Mr. Simpson, his kitchen, his dining room, his den, was that a place that you had free access to or not?
No, I wouldn't go in without being invited.
Regarding the jacuzzi, how many times were you in the jacuzzi?
Once.
Oh, would you say you did not take advantage of the generosity of Mr. Simpson in allowing you to stay in the guest house temporarily?
I did not.
Regarding dates, are you precise as to dates of times Mr. Simpson spent with Paula Barbieri?
No, I think the Memorial Day was the one in Palm Springs, if I remember. I'm kind of sure on that one. The exact dates, no.
Would it be a fair statement to say that you never saw Mr. O.J. Simpson with Paula Barbieri prior to May of 1994?
I might have once, but I think I first met Paul, I knew about her, but first met her in April or May. But I think maybe May, I'm not positive.
Of 94.
Of 94.
And you knew that O.J. Simpson was getting back together with her, that they had dated sometime prior?
That he knew her from before they dated.
Yes.
Yes.
Regarding the issue of you getting to have the privilege of staying as Mr. Simpson's guest, it's been pointed out by the prosecutor that that may have had a value of $6,000. May have had a value greater than that, might it?
Yes.
Not? Regardless of the value, would that be enough to get you to lie in this case, sir?
I will not lie.
For any amount of money?
For any amount of money.
Thank you. Nothing further.
All right, Mr. Kaelin, I'm going to excuse you at this time. However, you are subject to recall. I'm going to order you not to discuss your testimony with anybody except for the lawyers in the case and your own attorney, and you will be required to come back to court within 48 hours of being notified by the court. Do you understand the order, sir?
Coming back.
Yep. We may need you back. I don't know yet, but you're still subject to
Oh.
recall.
Okay.
All right, do you understand my order, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much. You're excused for today. Thank you, counsel. All right, next witness.
You will call Ms. Rachel Ferrara.
Yes, Ms. Clark, Mr. Cochran. All right, let's rescue those.
Yes, there.
All right, Deputy Russell, let's recycle our matters here. Thank you, sir. All right, Ms. Clark, are you prepared to call your next witness?
Yes, I am, Your Honor. Thank you. People call Ms. Rachel Ferrara.
Waiting for my clerk. There she is.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the cause not being before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please be seated and spell your first and last name for the record.
Just sit back, pull the microphone close to you, please. Thank you. Ms. Clark. I'm sorry.
State so your first and last names.
Rachel, R-A-C-H-E-L, Ferrara, F-E-R-R-A-R-A.
Ms. Clark.
Okay, Ms. Ferrara, are you a friend of someone by the name of Brian Kaelin, also known as Kato Kaelin?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have you known him?
I've known him since March of '94.
And during the time that you knew him in 1994, where was he living?
In OJ's guest house.
And where was that house? What was the address of that house?
360 North Rockingham.
In Brentwood?
Uh-huh. Yes.
And had you ever visited him at that guest house?
Yes.
So you know what it looks like.
Yes.
On June the 12th of 1994, did you receive a call from Kato Kaelin?
Yes.
At approximately what time?
Approximately 10:20
And where were
p.m.
you when you got this call?
at home.
I'm sorry?
At home?
Without giving us your address, where that was at the time, tell us the general area you were living in on June the 12th of 1994.
It's West LA, Palms.
About how many miles from Rockingham in Brentwood would that be?
10 miles? It's a guess. I really don't know.
Okay, and at 10:20 p.m., what were you doing when you got that phone call from Mr. Kaelin?
I was watching TV. Not much.
Did you have a conversation with him?
Yes.
What did you talk about?
We talked about,
Sustained.
Did you discuss with him a typewriter?
yes.
All right. And after that discussion, did you have some further discussion about activities that you were involved in at that time period?
A little bit, yes.
Were you studying acting at that time?
Yes.
Were you and Kato involved in some project together or a job together at that time?
Yes.
And what was that?
A movie we were both working on.
Were you acting in that movie?
No.
What were you doing?
I was a production assistant.
And what was Kato Kaelin doing?
Oh, he was doing a little bit of everything. He was doing some extras casting, and he was an assistant to one of the producers, and he was he had a part, but well, they cut it out, but he had a part.
He had a part, but
Yes.
they cut it out? So other than that, what kind of duties was he performing? Gopher? Or?
A little bit, yes. He was an assistant to a producer, so I guess they make you do probably about anything they can. So,
About anything which would be?
running errands, maybe taking people to lunch, just handling their affairs, basically. Depends.
Now, did Kato talk to you about what he had done earlier that evening?
Somewhat, yes.
Did he talk to you about going to McDonald's with Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
During the course of your conversation, did you happen to ask Kato Kaelin what time it was?
Yes.
And how do you happen to recall that?
Because we were going to go out and do something, and I asked him, I was trying to figure out if it was too late, and he said, so I asked him what time it was, and he said 10:30.
Now, you were supposed to go out with him that night, were you?
Yes. Well, I don't know, out, but
Get together.
yes.
And so after he told you it was 10:30, at some point after that, did something unusual occur during the course of your conversation with him?
Yes.
What was that?
Well, he described it as an earthquake. He said there was a bang on his wall.
Okay. And about how long after you'd asked the time and he told you it was 10:30, did he describe an earthquake occurring?
After 10:30?
Right. You asked him what time it was. He said 10:30, correct?
Right.
At some point after that, he described an earthquake occurring.
Mm-hmm.
How long after that time when he said it was 10:30 did he describe hearing an earthquake?
Approximately 10 minutes.
And how did he describe that earthquake sound?
He said it was a bang.
And when he told you about that, how did he sound?
He sounded confused and startled and concerned.
Did he sound scared?
Sustained.
Did he indicate to you in any way that he was, how did he indicate to you that he was concerned?
Well, because we tried to figure out what it was, and he said, was that an earthquake? And I had the TV on, so I said no, because, well, for one thing, I didn't feel anything, and also because they usually report it right away, some sort of indication. And just because he kept referring back to it in the conversation.
After
And it
you-
also knocked his picture.
He said it moved the picture on
Right.
his wall? Did, after you said no, it was not an earthquake,
Yes.
did he indicate some concern to you?
Yes.
And what concern was that?
We thought maybe somebody was outside.
All right, but you continued to talk to him for a little while after that, did you?
Yes.
About how long?
Approximately 10 minutes or so.
During that 10 minutes that you continued to talk to him, did the subject of that bang come up again?
Yes.
How many times?
Oh, I don't know how many times. I just know that it came up again.
Okay. And what did he tell you with respect to what he was going to do about it?
Sustained.
Did he tell you, did he indicate to you that what, if anything, he was going to do about that bang?
Well, at the end,
You can answer yes or no. Did he tell you what he was going to do?
yes.
All right, next question. Thank you.
And what did he tell you he was going to do?
Sustained.
1236, Your Honor.
Subsequent conduct?
Subsequent conduct, 1241, 1240, contemporaneous, and 1236, prior consistent.
All right, with the court order.
All right, you indicated that you continued to speak for 10 minutes after the bangs occurred on the wall. And then,
Overruled.
I'm sorry, bang on the wall. Okay, after the bang on the wall. And at some point, did Mr. Kaelin indicate to you he wanted to terminate the conversation?
Yes.
And were you expecting at the time that he terminated the conversation to hear back from him again?
Yes.
Did he tell you to expect to hear back from him again?
Sustained.
After you hung up from him, did you leave your apartment?
No.
Why didn't you leave your apartment?
Because I didn't plan on leaving.
Okay. Were you waiting for him to call back?
Yes.
And if you did not, what were you going to do if you did not hear back from him?
Well, he said before he hung up.
Sustained.
I'd like to approach Your Honor.
Well, that's non-responsive to that question.
Okay.
The question was, what were you going to do if you did not hear back from him?
Okay.
That's why I sustained the objection, because
Okay.
the answer was non-responsive.
Okay. Thank you. Did he give you some instruction just before hanging up with you after hearing the bang?
Yes.
And what was that instruction?
Sustained.
Not for the truth of the matter, Your Honor.
Subsequent conduct?
And subsequent conduct.
All right,
But it's-
proceed. Overruled.
Go ahead.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. Just before he hung up with you, did he give you some instruction?
Yes.
And what was that?
He said if he doesn't call back in 10 minutes to call the police.
Could you tell whether he was joking or serious?
Why don't you rephrase the question?
What was his tone of voice when he told you that?
It was, I don't remember.
I'm sorry?
I don't remember his tone of voice. It wasn't urgent.
Were you concerned?
Not at the moment, not as much.
Did he indicate at any point that he wanted to go out and find out what caused the noise?
Yes.
And about what time was it that you hung up?
Approximately 10:50.
Did you ever hear back from Mr. Kaelin that night after you hung up at 10:50?
Yes.
And what time was it approximately when you heard back from him?
I'd say approximately 11:05. 5 after 11.
So, I'm sorry?
5 after 11?
Okay. And did you have a conversation with him about what occurred after he hung up with you at 10:50?
Yes.
Did he describe any encounter he'd had with Mr. Simpson?
Sustained.
All right, during your conversation with Mr. Kaelin, when you resumed your conversation after 11 or 11:05, did something interrupt your telephone call with him?
Yes.
And approximately how long had you been speaking, if you remember, at the point that that phone call was interrupted?
Approximately 10 minutes.
Are you familiar with the feature on telephones called call waiting?
Yes.
So are you familiar with what occurs when someone calls while you're on the line if you have call waiting?
Yes.
And what is that?
It clicks or beeps or, well, actually clicks.
And during your conversation with Mr. Kaelin after 11 p.m., after you'd been speaking to him for a while, did something interrupt your call?
Yes.
And what was that?
Call waiting on his line.
On his line? And did he click off onto the other line?
Yes.
And did he come back to you after that?
Yes.
I'd like to ask a question that I know that Mr. Cochran will object to. If I could approach the bench.
Sure.
Approach.
After you click back over,
Yes.
not very long. He
Or will. Go
You
ahead.
can complete your
the
answer.
just a couple of minutes, and then he went outside.
And then did he call you back again after he came back inside?
Yes.
About how long was it that you spoke after he called you back the third time?
The third time?
Right.
It was for a long time, an hour and a half.
About what time did you hang up with him?
I don't know what time. I'd have to calculate it and figure it out. I guess, let's see. 12:31.
I have nothing further.
Mr. Cochran?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Ferrara.
Hello.
I'd like to ask you just a few questions. When you came into court today, you came in with a gentleman who's seated back there. Is that your lawyer?
Yes.
So you have a lawyer also, do you?
He's not a criminal.
But he's a lawyer who came here with you?
Yes.
He's still a lawyer, right?
Yes.
Okay. And prior to your testimony, you've had occasion to speak with Ms. Clark, have you not?
Yes.
Ms. Marcia Clark? On how many occasions would you say you've spoken to Ms. Clark prior to your testimony here today?
I've spoken to her 2 times.
And on each occasion, were you by yourself when you talked to her?
The first time I was, yes.
And the second time, who was with you?
My attorney.
All right, same gentleman who's here?
Correct.
All right. And how long had you known Kato Kaelin prior to June 12th, 1994?
Well, for just, well, since March, so,
All right. So you'd known him since March of 1994, is that correct?
correct.
That you met him in connection with this movie production we were talking about?
Yes.
All right. And during that period of time between March 1994 and June of 1994, did a relationship of some kind develop between you and Mr. Kaelin?
Yes.
And what was that relationship?
We were friends and we were dating.
Dating?
Yes.
And you came to know him pretty well as of June 12th of 1994?
Yes.
Did you find him to be a fairly honest and straightforward person in your dealings with him?
Definitely.
He would tell you the truth as far as you knew?
As far as I knew.
Now, you became aware as of March of 1984 that Mr. Kaelin lived at Mr. O.J. Simpson's residence. Is that correct, in the guest house?
I'm sorry, what was,
You
I
became
didn't hear the
aware
first
after
part.
you met him in March of 1994 that Mr. Kaelin lived at Mr. O.J. Simpson's residence or in his guest house, right?
Yes.
And in fact, between the period of March 1994 and June 12th of 1994, you had occasion to go over to the Simpson residence. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you spent some time over there. Is that correct?
Not a lot, but yes.
How many? Did you spend some evenings there?
1 or 2 evenings.
On how many occasions would you say you went over there?
I went over there in the day time a few times, so I would say 5 or 6.
All right, during that time frame. All
Yes.
right. Sometime in the day, sometime in the evening. Is that correct?
Correct.
And did you ever see Mr. O.J. Simpson during any of these times that you went over there?
Never.
So the 5 or 6 times you went over there between March of 1994 and June 12th of 1994, you never saw Mr. O.J. Simpson, right?
Never.
On this particular evening that we're talking about, June 12th, 1994, you recall that you received a phone call from Mr. Kaelin that evening. Is that correct?
Yes.
And to the best of your recollection, that phone call was somewhere approximately 10:30 p.m., the first phone call. Is that right?
Approximately 10:30?
That you were talking to him by 10:30 that evening.
We were talking during 10:30, but it was before 10:30.
All right. The first call was about what time? 10:20?
Yes.
All right. And at 10:30 you were still talking. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And you had some plans of possibly getting together that evening. Is that correct?
Yes.
So it turned out you didn't get together that evening, did you?
No.
All right. And as I understand your testimony that evening, you had perhaps 3 conversations altogether. Is that correct? 3 telephone conversations?
Yes, I guess you could put it like that.
It was during the first conversation that, while talking to Mr. Kaelin, he described for you a bang on the wall of his residence or something of that nature. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you recall he used the term bang on the wall. Is that correct?
Yes.
At first, as I understand it, he thought it was an earthquake, and because you were watching television, you were aware at least there was no indication of an earthquake at that time. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
Well, that's not the only indication, but I didn't feel anything.
All right. So you didn't feel anything, and you
Right.
didn't see any mention of it either. Is
Right.
that correct? And you were approximately 10 miles from where he was at that point. Is that correct?
That is an approximate, I'm not sure.
Well, you were in Palm somewhere. Is that
Yes.
correct? All right. Now, after he told you about this bang on the wall, there came a time when that conversation, that first conversation, terminated. Is that correct?
Yes.
And can you tell us about what time did the first conversation terminate?
Around 10:50?
All right. And at that point, you expected that Mr. Kaelin would call back again. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so that we're clear, if you can help us with this, what time did he call back after the first conversation? What was the time of the second conversation?
Approximately 11:05.
All right. So perhaps 15 minutes later he called back. Is that
Right.
correct? Do you know, or were you able to ascertain whether or not Mr. Kaelin had seen Mr. Simpson between the two phone calls, between 10:50 and 11:05. Were you able to ascertain that?
Yes,
And that was based upon something that he told you?
correct.
Did you discuss with Mr. Kaelin that night that Mr. Simpson was going to Chicago on an airplane at all?
Discussed?
Yeah, did you guys talk about that?
It wasn't like a whole topic discussed, but it was mentioned.
All right, no, I'm not talking about a topic, but did you have occasion to mention that in
Yes.
the course of your conversation?
Yes.
All right. Was that in the first conversation or in the second one?
That was in the second.
Second conversation?
Yes.
All right, after he came back, is that correct?
Correct.
And in the second conversation, how long did that conversation last?
Second conversation lasted, oh God, approximately 10 minutes.
Till about 11:15 or thereabouts?
Yes.
And then after that, there was a period of time, and then you had a third conversation, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the second conversation ended at about 11:15. Can you help us with when the third conversation began, when he called you back?
When it began?
Yes, what time did it start?
Probably, well, he wasn't outside for very long, so I'd say 10 minutes later, so 11:20.
So your best recollection is that the third conversation would have started about 11:25 or thereabouts?
Yes.
Okay. And I understand these are just estimates, is that correct? Your best estimates?
Best estimates,
All
yes.
right. And this third conversation was the one you shared with us that may have lasted up to an hour and a half, is that correct?
Yes.
In the second conversation, did Mr. Kaelin say to you that he had seen a limousine outside in the driveway?
Yes.
Did you have occasion to see any of Mr. Kaelin's testimony during the course of the last several days or so?
No. I heard some of the highlights.
I couldn't hear you.
I've heard some of the highlights. I
And
said.
where did you hear the highlights?
From friends.
Oh, people who told you they'd seen it? Do you believe that
Yes.
is that yes?
Yes.
All right. You believe that Kato Kaelin is an honest and credible person? Well, I want a foundational. Leading to something else. Thank you. Could you hear that question?
Do I believe he's
that
an honest and credible
an honest
person?
and credible person?
Yes.
And why do you say that?
Because because I know him.
And you still consider yourself a friend now,
He's
is that
very
right?
moral.
All right. And this is based upon the time you've known him since March of 1994, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, you haven't sold your story to any publications, have you?
No.
Have you had any offers?
Yes.
And what kind of publications have made offers to you?
Current Affair, hard copy, and I haven't pursued it, so I've been approached, but I haven't, Globe and
All right, some of the tabloid
right.
magazines also. And you've not been paid at all at this point, is that correct?
No.
You've not appeared on any of those shows yet?
No.
Well, thank you very kindly.
Sure.
Nothing further.
Ms. Clark? Charlie?
Ms. Ferrara, why do you have a lawyer?
Why do I have a lawyer?
Right.
For a civil suit,
Who are you suing?
Time Magazine. Well, it hasn't been filed.
But you're planning to.
Yes.
And why's that?
Because they said I lied.
And what did they say you lied about?
Why don't you chat with Ms. Clark first? Thank you, counsel. Proceed.
Do you remember the question?
No.
Okay. What did they say you lied about?
My preliminary testimony.
In what respect?
Well, basically they said I lied about, they said that I said that Kato told me that he went outside and saw no one.
Went outside and saw no one?
Right, during the course when he went outside,
That he did not, in other
the
words...
first time.
They were reporting, you had said that Kato told you when he went out to investigate the noises, there was no one outside.
Correct.
And you had never said that.
No.
And that's why you have a lawyer today?
That and moral support, basically.
Okay. Are you paying him?
No, it's on a contingency basis.
Your Honor, she is represented by counsel, and to the extent that questions call for privileged information, she does raise the privilege. My name is Paul Fuhrman, and I represent Ms. Ferrara.
All right, and counsel, if you'd drop your card off with the clerk before you leave this morning, I'd appreciate that.
And there'll be no further questions about the fee arrangement. That's-
All right. Thank you, counsel.
Okay, you indicated, Ms. Ferrara, that, well, let me ask you one further question. Have you told us the truth today, Ms. Ferrara?
I'm sorry?
Have you told us the truth today?
Yes.
And did you tell the truth at the preliminary hearing?
Yes.
Your knowledge of Mr. Kaelin's credibility, ma'am, is that based on your interaction with him?
Mostly, yes.
Okay. How often do you see him currently?
Currently? Never. I mean, here, but never.
Okay. You ran into him here in court, did you?
Yes.
All right. Other than
I've
that-
seen him out a couple of times, but we don't really talk.
And how long
very
did you
much.
date him for?
I would say till the beginning of July. So from March, well, actually April till July.
Of 94?
Yes.
Right. And after July, did you stop dating him?
Yes.
And how often did you see him after you stopped dating him?
We would talk on the phone mostly, but not very often. It depends. Sometimes once a week, sometimes a couple times.
When was the last time you spoke to him on the phone?
Last time I talked to him briefly the other day.
About your court appearance?
A little bit. No, not really. I just said I was just wishing him luck, kind of.
And when was the last time before that?
Oh, I don't know, a while ago, a couple weeks ago maybe.
Okay. And prior to that?
I don't know. I really don't know. I'm just guessing. Infrequently.
Okay. Would you consider him one of your closest friends?
A close friend, yes.
Okay. And you see him how many times? Well, since you stopped dating him in July, what was the nature of your contact? Telephone or in person?
Since July, mostly telephone. But I've been told not to, it's better that I don't talk to him.
Okay. So you've stayed away from him, have you?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any financial interest in this case, the outcome of this particular case?
Any financial interest in the outcome? Absolutely not.
Right. No matter what happens with this case, you're going to pursue your lawsuit as you see fit, or your lawyer sees fit?
Yes,
It's two separate things.
correct.
Okay. May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Certainly.
Okay, you've indicated to Mr. Cochran that many of your time estimates are approximate. You recall that?
Yes.
Was there one particular time that night when you absolutely determined what time it was during your conversations with Mr. Kaelin?
Yes.
And when was that?
10:30.
And that was how long before he told you about the bang?
About 10 minutes before.
And you're certain of that time?
Yes.
And why is that?
Just because of how much longer we talked.
And when you found out it was 10:30, you specifically, were you specifically... Hold it, I'm not done. I'm going to fix it.
It was.
I'm going to make it better. I'm trying. When you just indicated to us you were certain of the time of 10:30, did you pay some specific attention at that point to what time it was?
Well, I was aware of it.
Okay. Do you direct your attention to what time it was at that point?
At 10:30?
Yes.
Yes.
And what did you do to determine what time it was?
I asked Kato what time it was.
Okay. So other than that time of 10:30 and the 10 minutes after that that you've just indicated to us, are you certain of any of the other times you've mentioned? Or are those approximate?
Well, I'm certain of the 11:05.
Okay.
I mean, I
Anything
know
else?
it was after. Yeah, I'd say I'm certain
What are you certain of?
of the times.
Yes, which you indicated to Mr. Cochran that you were, sometimes were approximate. Okay? now
Well,
you've
I would say approximate within a minute. I mean, I'm not, dead on the times, but I'm saying approximate within a minute or two.
So when you say 11:05,
Well, I know that because he said 10 minutes, and then, I was waiting 10 minutes for him to call back, whether I should actually get concerned or not.
and it was more than 10 minutes though, wasn't it? Wasn't that
It
your
was more than
testimony?
10 minutes.
Pardon?
It was more than 10 minutes,
It was how long?
about 15.
Okay. So after the point of 11:05, are you certain of the times then? For example, how long you were talking to him before he left the phone again? Or is that an approximation?
Well, it's an approximation.
Okay. You indicated that you were planning to get together that night, but you didn't.
Right.
Why not?
Because the noise happened, or the bang happened.
And was that your decision or his?
Well, if it was both of ours, because that means that if I would have to go over there, and then we'd go out, and I'd say it was mostly his, because he didn't want to leave.
Because?
Because he thought he should.
Sustained. Mr. Cochran?
Was there someone in this courtroom who told you not to see Mr. Kato Kaelin?
Yes. Well, it was not don't see him, but we probably should not talk to him.
All right, that was some advice that you received.
Yes.
Okay.
It is a privilege again, Paul Silverman.
That's fine.
Calling for any
I'm not
communications.
going any further. I just asked someone in the courtroom. So now we know who it is.
Well, that's not true, though, but,
Did I tell you that as well?
yes, you did.
Because we don't discuss your testimony with Mr. Kaelin?
Right.
That's not privileged.
All right, anything else?
Nothing further.
Anything else? All right, Ms. Ferrara, you're excused as a witness. Thank you very much. All right, we'll take a 15-minute recess, and Ms. Clark, can you have your next witness available? All right, ladies and gentlemen, please remember my admonitions to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves. Don't form any opinions. Do not allow yourself to be communicated with regarding the case. Do not conduct any deliberations until the matter has been submitted to you. We'll take a 15-minute recess, and then we'll start with the next witness. All right, 15. All right. All right, the people may call their next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people call Mr. Allan Park.
All right, Mr. Park, would you step forward, please? Step over here next to the court reporter, please. Face the clerk.
Raise your right hand, please. You do solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the cause and opinion before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Please have a seat for witness stand and state and spell your first and last name for the record.
All right, I want you to lean back, Mr. Park, and just pull the microphone close to you.
Okay.
Person. All right.
Allanpark.
Ms. Clark.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Park.
Good morning.
Sir, as of June the 12th, can you tell us where you were employed?
I was employed for Town & Country Limousine.
Let me push that microphone a little closer. As of June the 12th, 1994, you were employed where?
For Town & Country Limousine.
As what, sir?
As a limousine driver.
And how long, as of June the 12th, had you been working there?
It was about 2.5, 3 months.
Who was the owner of that limousine company, sir?
Dale St. John.
Was he also a neighbor of yours?
Yes, he was.
How close did he live to you?
Just across the street.
On the date of June the 12th, 1994, did you have an order for a pickup on that date for the evening to go to the airport?
Yes, I did.
What was your order?
My order was to pick up Mr. Simpson at 360 Rockingham.
At what time?
10:45.
10:45?
Yes.
And were you made aware of what flight you had to get him to?
Not a flight number, but just to get him to LAX for an 11:45 flight out from American Airlines.
And were you aware of where that flight was going to?
I believe Chicago.
Had you ever driven Mr. Simpson to the airport before?
No, I haven't.
Or had you ever driven Mr. Simpson anywhere before?
No.
Now, as of June the 12th, 1994, had you ever been to the Brentwood area?
No.
Can you tell us, sir, at what time you left to pick up Mr. Simpson to take him to the airport on June the 12th?
What time I left my place?
Yes.
It was about 9:45.
And the area was not your address at that time, but the general area you were leaving from?
Torrance.
So you left at 9:45?
Yes.
Were you anticipating it would take you an hour to get to Brentwood from there?
I had no idea how long it would take. I knew it would be somewhere around there.
Now, were you scheduling yourself to arrive exactly at 10:45?
No, I wasn't.
What time were you scheduled to actually arrive there?
Well, they like us to be there 10 minutes early.
So what time were you trying to arrive at the defendant's house in Brentwood?
10:35.
Now, when you were driving to the defendant's house, what kind of car, what kind of limousine were you driving?
It was a stretch.
A stretch limousine?
Yes.
And what does that mean?
It means it's long.
Longer than what?
Longer than a normal sedan. I don't know the exact length of it. I think it was only fit for 4 to 6 passengers. So it's not actually, super long, but it's longer than a normal sedan.
Had you ever driven a stretch limousine before?
Yes, I have.
Did you, the first time you ever drove it, did you have to have any practice or any instruction in how to maneuver it?
I never had any instructions, no.
Did you practice any with it?
Well, before I worked for him, I drove for another person for a few months, so I had practice.
Okay. When you say him, you mean Dale St. John?
Yes.
Before you worked for Dale St. John at Town & Country Limousine, you worked for another limousine service?
Yes.
And at that prior limousine service, how long had you worked there?
It was about the same, 2.5, 3 months.
Did you drive stretch limousines at that earlier employment?
It was just one. It was one private owner. I just drove him around, nobody else.
Now, is there any difference in driving a stretch limousine than it is driving a regular, say, car of the size of a Lincoln Continental?
Yes.
And how is it different?
Just you need to make your turns a lot wider and drive a little bit slower. There's people in the back.
Why do you drive a little slower when there's people in back?
Well, I don't want them flying from side to side.
All right. So while you were driving, what route did you take to Mr. Simpson's house?
I took the 405 freeway north to Sunset, made a left off of Sunset going west to Rockingham. I made a right and headed up Rockingham to the residence.
During your drive to the residence, sir, is that car, that limo that you were driving that night, that stretch limo, is it equipped with a cell phone?
Yes, it is.
And is it the kind of phone that is fixed in the car, or can you remove it and take it around with you?
It's fixed in the car.
Did you receive any phone calls during your trip to Rockingham?
From what I remember, I received one from Dale.
I'm sorry, Dale St. John?
Yes.
That was your boss?
Yes.
He called you in the car while you were en route to Rockingham?
Yes.
All right. Do you recall what time it was when you drove, when you indicated to us just now you turned right up onto Rockingham and drove up Rockingham? Do you recall what time it was when you got to the location on Rockingham where the defendant's house was?
It had to have been around 9:10 22/9/23.
9/22?
No, excuse me, 10/22. 10/23, I'm sorry.
Now, how was it that you knew what the address was, is that correct?
Yes.
360 North Rockingham?
Yes.
How were you able to locate which house on Rockingham was the defendant's as you drove up Rockingham?
There was addresses painted on the curb.
People 62A.
All right. You see the photograph that's being shown to you as People 62A, sir?
Yes, I do.
Can you indicate to us, well, strike that. Did you locate the address on the curb that belonged to the defendant, 360, as you drove up Rockingham in that stretch limo?
Yes.
And do you see the location that you noticed the address in painted on the curb in this photograph?
Yes, I do.
I'm going to ask you to direct the arrow to the address you saw on the curb on June the 12th. How about a different color? Red? Tell the arrow where to go, Mr. Park.
Go down behind the Bronco. Back up a little bit. Up. There you go, right there.
All right. Could you put a circle around that, John? All right. So you were able to see the address on the curb there?
Yes.
So at the time that you were looking at that location, the address on the curb, did you see a car parked in that location?
No, I didn't.
You see that white Bronco in this photograph, sir?
Yes.
Was that white Bronco there at the time you drove by at about 10:22?
I didn't see it.
And you were looking at that curb, were you not?
Yes.
When you saw the address on the curb, what happened next? What did you do?
I was driving a little bit quick, so by the time I saw it, I noticed that was the house, and I should turn around. As I got a little bit farther, I noticed another side street, Ashford.
And how far was that side street past the location of the curb where you saw the address?
It's about another 40, 50 yards.
People's Exhibit number 63.
Do you recognize the location that you see in this photograph, sir?
Yes, I do.
All right. Can you tell us, first of all, which street it is that comes actually down to the left-hand corner of the screen as you face it?
That's Ashford.
Can you point, I'll tell you what.
The
point
left-
tell the arrow. Where's Ashford? Tell the arrow where to go.
Go down to the left. That's Ashford there.
All right. Okay. Mark that. And the previous photograph, Your Honor, to be marked with
62A1.
62A1, thank you. And is that the street that you indicated was the side street that you saw?
Yes.
And when you got to that side street, what did you do?
I turned right and drove down the street a little ways and made a U-turn and came back and parked on the opposite side of Mr. Simpson's house, almost parallel to the gate with my front window.
Almost parallel to the Ashford gate?
Almost, yeah.
Okay. Can you, well, there happens to be a car parked on the north curb of Ashford in this photograph. Do you see it?
Yes.
Where in relation to where that car is in that photograph did you park?
Same spot.
Okay. Could we please mark that as well? Why don't we circle that car? No, no, no.
Yeah.
No, no, no.
You-
Not there. Why, direct the arrow, Mr. Park.
To the black Jeep over in the corner, it looks like. Down. There you go.
Okay, can we circle that? There we go. Thanks, John. Can this be marked as People 63E?
So marked.
Thank you. All right, you parked that stretch limo there,
Yes.
and then what did you do?
I got out of the car and walked towards the back and had a cigarette. And when I was done, I got back in the car and listened to the radio a little bit.
Hold on, Mrs. Robertson.
Okay. What time was it when you parked on Ashford?
When I parked on Ashford?
Yes.
It was 10:25.
All right. And what direction was the stretch limo parked in?
It would have been facing west.
Would it have been facing Rockingham,
Yes.
the street, Rockingham?
Yes.
If you wouldn't mind, sir, would you step down, please?
And Ms. Clark, which board is this?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, it's People 66. Would you mind using the pointer, if you would? There's one right by you over there on the witness stand. You can use the bigger one if you want. And please show us the route that you took. When you first arrived at the location in Brentwood and you drove up Rockingham, will you please show the jury the direction that you drove and how you arrived at the parked location you've indicated to us on People 63E?
Okay, I came up Rockingham, saw the address right about here. I was going a little bit quick.
Okay, wait a minute. For the record, the witness saw the address right about here. That would be just above the upper black line defining the Rockingham driveway.
I then proceeded up to Ashford, made a right on Ashford, was looking for a good place to turn around at, which would have been down around here. There was another driveway.
For the record, the witness gestured to an area off the board, which would be a continuation of Ashford Street.
Made my U-turn and came back down and parked just about here.
And for the record, the witness, when he said park just about here, indicates a location that's slightly to the west of the Ashford gate of Mr. Simpson's residence.
On the north side of the street.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, we're going to have you trace it on the Elmo as well. Go ahead, take a seat.
please. Name over, please.
All right, Mr. Park, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to take the board down now, and I'm going to ask you to direct the arrow to trace the route that you just done for us. Get back down. Okay, why don't you direct the cross to trace that route so we can preserve this, starting at the bottom? Tell it.
Okay. I followed Rockingham straight up, saw the address on the north side of the curb there.
Okay, can we mark that location? Direct the cross to the location where you saw the address.
It should be the northeast.
Direct the arrow.
Right there.
Can we put an X? No. Well, no, that's fine. Okay. Continue.
I continued up all the way to Ashford, made a right-hand turn, went down the street, past the driveway. It would have been off the screen, but I made a U-turn just past that. A little farther down, just past the driveway, I parked on the north side of the street, right about there.
All right. We can put the arrow going. Which way was your car facing?
The other way, it was facing west.
All right. About there?
Yes.
All right. We could mark this as people 66B.
All right, 66B.
Thank you, Allan. All right, and when you got to the location where the arrow has stopped on Ashford Street, sir, what time was it?
It was 10:25.
And how do you know that?
I looked at my watch, and there's also a clock on the radio.
In the car?
Yes.
And was the clock in the car the same time as your watch?
Yes, give or take a minute or so.
All right, and what happened next after you parked? What did you do?
I got outside. I walked towards the back of the car, had a cigarette, got back inside the car, listened to the radio for a few minutes, and then just at about 10:39, I proceeded to drive up to the driveway.
So you smoked a cigarette, listened to the radio, and then got back inside?
Yes.
After you got back inside, did you look at the clock again?
Yes, I did. I wanted to make sure that I was right on my 10 minutes early.
Okay. And you got back into the car at what time?
It was around 10:39.
10:39?
Yes.
And how do you know that?
From looking at the clocks.
What did you do next?
I started the car and drove back onto Rockingham, made a left, and drove up to the Rockingham gate with my driver's side window looking down the Rockingham driveway. It just didn't look too easy to get into, so I backed straight back up and made a left onto back onto Ashford and pulled up to the Ashford gate.
All right, I'm going to back up for a second and show you some photographs.
People 63. Two, please.
All right, you indicated that you drove down Ashford, and which way did you turn on Rockingham?
I made a left
And for what purpose did you do that?
to go back to the Rockingham gate.
Why did you want to go back to the Rockingham gate?
I don't know,
Why did you want to look in the Rockingham gate?
because I wanted to drive into it.
Now, was the Rockingham gate open or closed?
It was closed.
So, showing this photograph, sir, you indicated earlier that you were in the position of that dark-colored Jeep on the north side of Ashford.
Yes,
Which way did you turn on Rockingham?
left.
Okay. This next photograph has been shown to council, be People's 146.
All right, People's 146.
And what street is depicted in this photograph, sir?
Oh, that looks like Rockingham?
Okay. And is that the location you drove down to get to the Rockingham gate?
Yes.
People 62A.
And what location is shown there?
The Rockingham gate.
Who's next in order for this following photograph, Your Honor? People's 147 has been shown to council.
147.
And what location is shown in this photograph, sir?
That is also the Rockingham gate.
Now, was that gate open or closed when you saw it?
It was closed.
When you looked into were you able to look through the gate, through the bars?
Yes.
When you pulled up to that location, sir, you were driving that stretch limo, correct?
Yes.
You pulled so that you could look into the gate, you had the side window. Is that right?
Yes.
Were you able to see out the side window?
Yes, it was.
Where, with respect to the gate, did you pull to locate your side window close to the gate?
I was out in the street.
Mm-hmm.
I never pulled up to the gate at all.
In other words, you did not pull face into the gate?
No, I didn't.
How did you pull up? What position did you pull up to next to the gate?
Would have been my driver's side window. I had to look out the left to look down the driveway.
Okay, and as you pulled down Rockingham, this time going southbound on Rockingham, and looked into the Rockingham gate, did you see any car, white Bronco, parked to the left of the gate as you faced it?
No, I didn't.
And was that location in your field of view at the time you looked into the Rockingham gate?
Yes.
What were you trying to do when you looked through, what were you trying to determine when you looked through the Rockingham gate to your left?
I was just looking at the driveway and seeing how easy it would have been to pull into the driveway and if I can exit out onto Ashford. Just the way the cars were parked and where the garage was, it didn't look, very easy to make that turn.
Okay.
So I decided to back up.
So did you make a U-turn or did you back up?
No, I backed straight up.
You put it in reverse.
Yes.
And when you put it in reverse, did you have to look behind you?
Of course, yes.
Okay. And do you remember what shoulder you looked over to do that?
I would have looked over my right.
Okay. When you looked over your right shoulder, did you see anything behind you?
No.
And you backed up to where?
I backed up to the Ashford Street.
And where did you go then?
Made another left onto Ashford and pulled up to the front gate.
Okay. Let's go back to 66 on Melma. Let's do the photos. People 63, Your Honor. And again, sir, you indicated earlier that the Ashford Street intersects with Rockingham.
Yes, it does.
And does this show the Ashford Street that you pulled onto?
Yes.
And which way did you turn on Ashford?
Left.
I'm sorry, when you came back up Rockingham, you turned left onto Ashford, is that correct? Is that what you said?
When I backed straight back up?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Did you back all the way up Rockingham past Ashford?
Yeah. Yes.
And you made a left onto Ashford, was that what you said?
Yes.
Then what'd you do?
I pulled up to the Ashford gate with my bumper just about touching the gate, and turned off my lights. I only had my parking lights on.
Okay.
People 64.
People 64? Do you recognize the location shown there, sir?
Yes, I do.
All right. And what position did you pull up to with respect to the gate shown in this photograph?
With my car facing in forward towards the house, with the front bumper almost touching that gate.
Okay. Is that the Ashford gate that we see in this photograph?
Yes, it is.
When you pulled up to the Ashford gate, sir, did you notice whether there were any cars near this gate?
Yes, there was one.
And what car did you notice?
It was, from what I can remember, a black 300ZX.
A black 300ZX?
Yes.
Do you see any car in this photograph that appears to match the car you've just described as having seen on the night of June the 12th near the Ashford gate?
Yes, that resembles the one I saw.
Okay, why don't you direct the arrow to circle that car?
Just behind the person there, right there.
Is that it?
Yes.
And can you tell us whether it was in that position on the night you saw it of June the 12th?
Yes.
Now, can you direct the arrow, please, to show us the location where you were parked and tell the arrow which direction it should face to indicate the front of your limo?
The arrow should be pointing upwards, just like that, with my front bumper just touching the gate. Down a little lower, there you go.
Okay. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. People's 64B, Your Honor.
64B.
Thank you. Let's go back to 66.
Name, mother.
All right. Would you please trace the route you just described to us, sir? After you parked on Ashford, you indicated you got back in the car and drove again. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you indicated it was what time when you did that?
When I got back in the car,
When you began to drive again to look at the Rockingham Gate.
that was around 10:39.
Okay. Please direct the pointer to the cross.
Go back out onto Rockingham. Make a left. All the way to the driveway. I stopped there.
All right. Can you indicate to us where your side window was with respect to the Rockingham Gate?
It was just parallel with it, looking straight down the driveway.
Okay. And what time was it, sir, when you got to strike that? When you looked to your left to look up the Rockingham Gate, were you looking very carefully in that direction, sir?
Yes, I was.
And did you see any white Bronco parked to your left north of the Rockingham Gate?
No, I didn't.
I'm sorry, you did not see any
No.
Bronco parked to the north of the Rockingham Gate?
No, I didn't.
Then what did you do?
That's when I backed straight back up, those same traces. And
Okay, why don't we put a 1 on that white line? All right. And now in a different color, maybe green. Okay, why don't you direct us how you went in reverse?
straight back. Just a little bit past Ashford. And then made a left. Went back forward.
Okay.
Made a left.
And could you please direct it to show where you parked?
Keep going. Made a right. All the way up to the front gate.
Okay, could we put an arrow on the end
Just
of that
there.
indicating the direction you were facing? Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And let's put an arrow on the white line indicating the direction you took. Would that be the front of your car, sir?
Where the green is?
No, where the white arrow is? When you got to the Rockingham Gate?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, if we could put a 2 on the green line? Why not put it up there by Ashford? Okay, good. Thanks, John.
Ms. Clark, you want to mark
Thank
this
you. Yes.
exhibit?
Yes, Your Honor, I do. People 66, C. C.
Thank you.
When you pulled up to the Ashford Gate, sir, the location shown by the green arrow, can you tell us what time it was?
That was at 10:40.
And how do you know that?
Because I looked at the clocks again.
I'm sorry?
I looked at my watch and the clock again.
And the clock?
Yeah,
You looked at your clock and your watch a lot that night.
a lot.
Why is that?
Because when you're a limo driver, you're set pretty much on schedules. So you're looking to see if you're on time, how long you have to get to the airport, things like that.
Now, you indicated, I think, that you turned off your headlights and you left only your parking lights on?
Yes.
All right. At 10:40? What
Yes.
happened next?
That is when I got out of the car, and there was an intercom at the gate, and I was using that intercom to buzz the house, and I buzzed it, and there was no answer. I proceeded to buzz it a few more times. There was still no answer. So that's when I decided to get back in the car and call my boss's voicemail.
Okay. Was it something you pressed, a button you pressed?
I think it was a button, yes.
Okay. And when you pressed that button, could you hear a sound?
Yeah, it made a ringing or a buzzing noise.
Do you remember whether it was ringing or buzzing?
No.
Okay. But it was a sound.
Yes.
How many times did you press the button at 10:40?
It was a good 2 or 3, 4 times.
And did you get any answer?
No, I didn't.
So after you pressed the buzzer 2 or 3 or 4 times and got no answer, what happened next?
That's when I stepped back into the car and used the cell phone to call my boss's voicemail.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right. Now, you indicated to us earlier, sir, that that there was a phone in that limousine,
Yes, there was.
and you just indicated now that you used that phone.
Yes.
And who did you call?
I called I was trying to get a hold of my boss, Dale St. John, which it ended up being his voicemail. It's his business line.
I'm going to show you phone records, sir. Your Honor, I have here a photocopy of a phone bill. I'll be marking
People's next door is
People's
148.
148, thank you. I'll be marking a different copy of this same for actual admission at some point.
Right.
But for now, I'll just use this Xerox. That's all right. Sir, I'm directing your attention to this document in front of you, and I'm going to be asking you a few questions about it. Do you see here an entry for June the 12th, 94, the time 22:05:36?
Yes, I do.
First of all, are you familiar with military versus regular time?
Yes.
Okay. And 22:05:36, would that be 10:05 and 36 seconds p.m.?
Yeah. Yes, it would.
All right. Does that show a phone call placed to and from a given number here?
Yes, it does.
Okay, the number stated here for this first call at 10:05 on this bill, do you recognize that number?
Do I? Well, I don't recognize it now.
Okay.
I know what it is, but
What is it?
it's the phone number to the limousine.
Okay. The phone that you had in your car?
Yes.
All right. And does that reflect a call that came in to you at 10:05?
Yes.
Who would that be from?
That would be from Dale St. John.
Your boss?
Yes.
Okay, do you see then a call at 10:44 on June the 12th?
Yes, I do.
And do you recognize the phone number to which the call was placed?
Yes, I do.
Whose phone number is that?
That is Dale St. John's business line.
Okay. And when you say business line, you earlier indicated to us that you placed a phone call to his pager.
Yes.
Is that the same as his business line?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now directing your attention. Okay. All right, after you placed the call to Dale St. John's pager, what did you do next?
I made the call, and I left the number that to call me back, and after that I got back out of the car and proceeded to ring the intercom a few more times.
Okay. Let me ask you something, Mr. Park. When you said you left a number for him to call you back, what number did you leave? The number to what?
Actually, I think I left like 911, because I never knew the phone number to the limousine. I never knew what the number to the limousine phone was, so I couldn't leave him a number I didn't know. So I just left him 911, figuring he'd figure that out. I was in in some kind of trouble.
And what kind of trouble were you in that you left the 911?
That nobody was answering. I didn't think anyone was home, so I wanted to figure out what his instructions were from there to figure out what to do.
All right. And that was at 10:43, was it, p.m.?
Yes, it was.
Would this be a good point? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our recess for the morning session. Please remember all my admin on the record in the Simpson matter. All parties are again present. Counsel, anything we need to take up before we resume with Mr. Park? All right, let's have the jurors, please. We've all been joined by all the members of our jury panel. Mr. Park, would you resume the witness stand, please? All right, good afternoon, Mr. Park.
Good afternoon.
You're reminded, sir, you are still under oath, and Ms. Clark, you may continue with your direct examination.
Mr. Park, I notice you are not wearing glasses at this moment. Are you wearing contacts?
No, I'm not.
On the night of June the 12th, sir, when you picked up Mr. Simpson to take him to the airport, were you wearing glasses?
No, I wasn't.
Were you wearing contacts?
No, I wasn't.
Do you ever wear glasses?
Sometimes.
For what purpose?
A lot of times driving at night, just seeing freeway signs from a very far distance.
So what do you need glasses for?
What do I need them for?
Yes, when
For-
do you need them?
For seeing very far distances.
And for seeing what at a distance? For seeing objects?
No, just for reading street signs and stuff like that. Objects, I'm fine, anything like that. It's just little street signs, you know, signs are pretty small.
As you were driving down Sunset westbound towards Rockingham, were you able to see the street sign of Rockingham?
Yes, I was.
Now, you indicated to us, sir, that when you turned right onto Rockingham, when you first arrived at the location, you were looking at the curbs.
Yes.
And what was that for the purpose of?
Looking at the addresses.
Had anybody ever, at the grand jury or the preliminary hearing, ever asked you how you located the address of Mr. Simpson's residence?
No, they didn't.
And you have testified, sir, before the grand jury and at the preliminary hearing in this matter?
Yes.
And you also gave an interview to Mr. Shapiro on June the 14th, did you not?
Yes, I did.
And on any of those occasions, did anyone ask you how you located the defendant's residence?
No, they didn't.
And how was it that it came to your attention that you located his residence by looking at the addresses on the curb of Rockingham?
Who pointed that out to me?
How did it come to your attention that
Oh.
that's how you located his address?
With a discussion with my mom.
And when you became aware of the fact that you'd been looking at the curbs for the addresses to locate Mr. Simpson's residence, and that that's how you located his address, why was that significant to you?
Because I didn't know. I was looking for his house, so I was looking at addresses along the curb to find out which one his house was. And that was the only spot there was an address. I saw him all the way down the street. So,
So you recalled that you saw that address,
yes,
and you were looking at that curb.
yes.
People's Exhibit number 62A. Two, please, Court Counsel.
And when you looked at the curb and saw the address on that night as you drove up Rockingham, you indicated before that you saw no white Bronco? It is foundational. He's already so testified.
All right.
How-
Overruled at this point. We're back to the point of coming up Rockingham, correct?
Right.
All right, proceed. Thank you, counsel.
And when you looked at the curb and you saw the address on that night, as you drove up Rockingham, you indicated before that you did not see the white Bronco there. You were-
Overruled.
You can answer.
No,
Did you see any cars parked along the curb to the north of the Rockingham gate?
north of it, no.
And then you indicated at some point that you were parked on Ashford,
Yes,
People's Exhibit number 63.
and that you at some point parked facing in towards the Ashford gate. And this is foundational to another question.
All right, overruled at this point.
Do you recall that testimony?
yes.
Did you notice any car other than the 300ZX that you mentioned?
Not that I remember, no.
That is near the Ashford gate?
Yes, not that I remember, no.
Okay. Do you recall? Showing you People 64, sir? When you were, do you recognize that?
Yes,
And what is that?
that's the Ashford Gate.
Now, did you know,
I agree. He has identified this already. Proceed.
did you notice any white Ford Bronco parked to either side of that Ashford gate?
No, I didn't.
All right, now you indicated when we broke for lunch that you had pressed the buzzer a few times and received no answer. When you were pressing the buzzer, sir, can you indicate on this photograph what position you were in?
Referring to People 64.
Yes, Your Honor.
I was standing facing the intercom, which would be facing a southeast direction.
Okay, can you put the arrow where your position would have been, where you would be facing?